Master sent over their MasterFan RGB. Now, I've actually got an AF, an AB, and an AP, not in that order necessarily. They are airflow, air balanced, and air pressure. These are three different sets, and I've also got the Trident cable, which is basically just a RGB splitter, and actually costs £10 or $9.99 in the UK, so that's actually a very expensive cable, but nonetheless, let's get into the fans. A quick tour around the boxes will show you that they all actually are open cover boxes, so you can open them up if you like, especially if you're looking at them in a retail store as opposed to buying them online. And obviously the fans themselves are quite different, especially when you take them outside the box. You can see that the air pressure actually has kind of the median number of blades here and sort of a less aggressive angle of attack on the blades, whereas the airflow has the minimum number of blades but the most aggressive angle of attack, and obviously the air balanced being, well, balanced and right in the middle with the most number of blades. So this is actually kind of interesting how they've designed them. They all have rubber mounts on the sides and they all use the same connectors, so a 4-pin PWM fan header and a 4-pin RGB header. Coming onto that RGB header is where the Trident cable comes in. If you have three fans, especially if your motherboard doesn't have three LED headers, which most motherboards, in fact, I actually don't know any that have three on them, then you will want to be making use of these. The main thing is that this cable, as I said, is £9.99 in the UK, so that is fairly expensive, and I'm hoping that once these are launched, they do some sort of bundle for them. When connected, the fans actually look really very nice. Now, I don't have the controller that they are launching separately. That's, I think, £29.99 at launch, and that is a separate thing from the fans as well, and that's mostly if you don't have any LED headers. So if you have an older system and you don't have one with an RGB header on it, then you can use that controller and connect 3 or 4 fans to it and use USB to power the lighting effects, and I think that allows you to do some more advanced effects than your standard motherboard, but nonetheless it is still pretty awesome and they do look very stylish, especially while cycling through all the colours. In terms of airflow and pressure, they really do all live up to their sort of respected names, and the air balance for me actually seems like a really nice option. It has a lot of airflow but a decent amount of pressure to it as well, and does actually feel pretty good just in terms of having it on and running. And of course, depending on what your fan curve is in your motherboard and all that sort of stuff will determine a lot about the fan's overall performance, but it does a pretty good job, and all of the fans are actually exceptionally quiet as well, obviously besides airflow passing through them, so I was really impressed in that front. On the back of each of the fans you do actually have an R and a B and an RGB switch, so if you don't have an RGB header and you can't afford the extra £30 for the controller, then these fans can be set to either red or blue to match your existing build, although obviously this is only a 3-position switch, so you only have red, blue or RGB available, and when the RGB is selected on the switch but there's no input on the actual header itself, they're just off in terms of LEDs. When it comes to pricing, these are listed for £19.99, or at least in the UK anyway, and from my understanding these could fluctuate once they're available or not available in terms of supply, so do bear that in mind. But at the same time, as said, so the fans are £19.99 each, I think, with £24.99 for the 140mm versions. The controller is £29.99 and the Trident cable is another £9.99 on top of that, so do bear that one in mind. Actually, a quick note on the Trident cable: even though it is actually meant to obviously connect 3 of these fans together and plug into your motherboard, they've actually used all female headers on it. This means that you actually need to use that tiny little adapter, the male-to-male adapter, to actually connect to the fans, and this seems like a very strange, kind of unuser-friendly thing to do, especially considering that these fans are the exact fans that it's meant to work with. It's not designed to do anything else other than work with these fans, and obviously the fans have female headers on them, so it's a very strange choice for them to go with. So what's the verdict here? Well, these come in at a little bit of a lower price than Corsair's HD and SP lineups for their RGB setup. So if you're after some rather nice fans, obviously with RGB, and can be controlled via software through your standard motherboard software or through a controller if you fancy paying extra for it, then it is pretty nice. The overall RGB setup and how it works really isn't that nice, especially considering if you have more than 3 of these fans, then I guess you'll need 3 Trident cables and you've got to sort of match it all up, and I don't really know how that would work, or you need to get multiple controllers, so that's not all that nice. And of course it would be nice to see the male headers on the Trident cable, especially if you're paying £9.99 for it, but they are still very nice fans. They do what they say on the tin. They're actually very nice in terms of the options that you have in terms of airflow, air balanced, and air pressure. In terms of scoring, I think especially with the controller and the Trident cable being relatively expensive, I think the value for money kind of comes down as a whole for the set, and I think it's going to be maybe a 4 for value for money. In terms of performance, for me, these do a really nice job, and I think I'll go for a 4.5 as the ML series fans are just a little bit better. Obviously more expensive, and obviously some Noctua fans as well are very, very nice, but still do a very good job. In terms of functionality, I think it's going to be a 4 for me, with a 4.5 for styling and a 4.5 for TechteamGB score and a gold award. These are really nice fans. I would like to see some changes, obviously, as I said, with the Trident cable and with some just sort of additions to how that would work, and obviously the controller and Trident cable price to come down a bit, but otherwise they're very nice and I do highly recommend them. So if you want to know more about these fans or check out the price, when and where you watch them, take a look at the links in the description down below. I'd also really appreciate it if you'd like this video. Feel free to subscribe as well, and let me know what you think of these fans in the comments down below as well. I'd be very interested to hear what you think. Also in the description there's a couple links to Amazon and Overclockers UK. Those links really do help me out. If you could use those when you're buying stuff, I'd really appreciate it. And there's also some merchandise links as well, so if you want to check out other TechteamGB stuff or just generally funny tech joke kind of stuff, both of those are available in the shop down below, so feel free to take a look at that. And otherwise, yeah, I guess that's kind of it. At least some of the videos over here for you in the subscribe button over this side. And otherwise, yeah, we'll see you all in the next video.